So it is fall 2024 and recently Fujifilm has just released a whole bunch of new stuff. New camera, new lenses and finally some rumors on the infamous autofocus problem. That's right, Fujifilm has heard all the complaints and we'll talk about that too. Before we get started, remember to leave a comment with your thoughts, hit that subscribe button and let's get started. First up, let's talk about Fujifilm's newest baby, the X-M5. Now, did you guys know there was an X-M1 camera? Yeah, me neither. That one came out in 2013. So fast forward 11 years and we've jumped 3 generations to the X-M5. It's a bit of an odd release from Fujifilm, kind of like when they came out with the X-T50. But in my opinion, the X-M5 is the better camera between the two. And I'll explain why in a bit. What we have here is Fujifilm's smallest interchangeable lens camera with an APS-C sensor. It's so tiny, in fact, that the lens mount is almost the same size as the camera body itself. You could practically fit this thing in the palm of your hand. Despite its size, it's packing a 26-megapixel X-Trans 4 sensor and the newest X-Processor 5, which is pretty powerful for such a compact little thing. It's like a mini version of my XS20. But here's the kicker: no in-body image stabilization. Instead, it uses digital image stabilization, which is okay considering the size. Obviously, it's not as good as IBIS, but hey, it's better than nothing, right? Now here's where the things get interesting. The X-M5 can shoot 6.2K open gate video. Yeah, you heard that right, a tiny camera that can shoot 6.2K. So if you're into video, this is basically a mini XS20 with some compromises. But you can still attach an external fan like on XS20 to keep your X-M5 cool while recording 6.2K 10-bit. This is a great feature for such small body. It ensures that this 6.2K isn't just a gimmick that would constantly overheat this tiny camera. But here's why I think this release is a little strange. On its own, the X-M5 is a solid camera for what it is. Compact, powerful and kind of adorable, to be honest. But if you compare it to its older sibling, the X-M1, you'll notice something. The X-M1 back in 2013 was cheaper. Even when you factor in inflation, the X-M5 is pricier, and I can't help but think, why are we paying more for what feels like fewer features? It's like they are following the same pattern we saw with the X-E4. They gave it upgraded specs but made it smaller and removed the viewfinder. Look at the X-T50. It's an upgraded X-T30 Mark II, but it costs more, and not just a little more. Are you guys seeing the pattern here? Every time Fujifilm upgrades their camera lineup, they raise the price up to $500. Let me know what you think about that pricing in the comments below. But hey, I still think the X-M5 has a lot of value. Sure, it doesn't have IBIS, but it's priced below the X-T50, and unless you really need the higher megapixel count, viewfinder and IBIS of the X-T50, you're saving a decent chunk of money. Plus, you're not sacrificing too much in terms of image quality with that X-Trans sensor. One thing I'm not a fan of though is the flip out screen. It's the same one you'll find on the XS20, and honestly, Fujifilm missed a chance here. Think about it: if you want to shoot top-down videos for social media or reels, for example, a tilting screen would be much better. But instead we got this flip to the side screen that just doesn't look as slick for that type of shooting. Come on, Fujifilm, don't you want to be trendy? Of course, film simulation is available on the X-M5 as well. It seems like this feature is becoming a standard for Fujifilm. The approach to the film simulation dial is a bit of a mixed bag though. On the XS20, for example, there is an unmarked dial that you can assign to film simulation or other settings, but on the X-M5 and X-T50 the dial is specifically marked for film simulation, so you are locked into using it that way. On the X-M5 it makes a bit more sense since it's a compact, budget-friendly camera aimed at casual shooters. Still, I'd personally prefer a film recipe dial instead. Many Fujifilm shooters are interested in customizing film recipes with additional adjustments beyond just the film simulation settings itself. But Fujifilm seems to want us to stick to film simulation presets rather than making more detailed adjustments. Speaking of upgrades, let's talk about autofocus. This has been a sore spot for a lot of Fujifilm users over the years, but based on the early reviews and tests, it seems like they finally made some serious improvements. Could it be true? Could we actually have decent autofocus? According to the rumors, Fujifilm might even roll out a firmware update that will fix autofocus issues on older models. Fingers crossed, because while I was happy with the Reala Ace film simulation update, an autofocus upgrade would be much appreciated. Alright, moving on, Fujifilm has also updated one of their lenses, the XF16-55mm f2.8. Now, the previous version of this lens was, to put it mildly, a bit of a tank. It was pretty big, especially if you compare it to the more compact Sigma 1850mm f2.8. The new version of the XF16-55 is a bit smaller, which is great, but it's still quite expensive. Personally, I think I'd lean towards the Sigma if I were in the market for a zoom lens right now. Yeah, the Sigma's focal range is a little shorter and it doesn't have an aperture ring, but for the price difference, it's a pretty compelling option. But enough about my thoughts. What do you think? Are you excited about the X-M5? Does the price increase on Fujifilm's newer models make sense to you? Or are you holding out for something like an X-E4? I think I'd be more into X-M5 if it had IBIS and flip-up screen. That rotating screen just doesn't do it for me. For now, I'm happy with my XS20, but I'm curious to hear what you guys are thinking. Before we wrap up, let me know if you want more videos like this where we dive into Fujifilm news, updates and rumors. It's fun keeping up with what they are releasing and what's coming down the pipeline. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave your comments with your thoughts. As always, have a nice day and keep shooting.